Hello, all humans and all non-humans. Welcome back to another episode of Judgemental Readings by Only for Humans. Look what good lighting can actually do. This is what happens when I film in the middle of the day and I have the windows open and it's not just middle of the night. Not middle of the night, but like before bedtime. Wow. Look at the resolution of things. My camera actually is good. Also, you can also see how green my I haven't redone the blue. I did the ends, as you can see. So the ends are very, very pink, which I like. I gotta redo the blue. Still some of it is there, but it's mostly faded to green at this point, and my roots are starting to show again. My hair never stops growing, I swear. Also, I'm letting out the sides grow, and so I'm looking pretty weird, pretty interesting on this on the side. So there's gonna be a long awkward face. Look how pretty. Look how pretty the magenta is. It's so pretty. The magenta on this one actually is the Arctic Fox. I do actually prefer the Arctic Fox magenta to the Ion magenta. I feel like it's, I don't know, the color stuck better. Weirdly enough, because their blue was shit. But the magenta is nice. This is after one wash, so I like the magenta a lot. But anyways, I'm probably gonna do, I don't know when I'm gonna do the blue. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. We'll see. I have a few days off. So yesterday, all I did was vegetate because sometimes you need it. Anyways, welcome back. I know the last episode was awesome, or at least I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the reading. I'm surprised I didn't just run back into it and jump into the next chapter. I took a little bit of a break because while I was working a ton. So I don't have high hopes for this episode or for this chapter because the last chapter was too good. So I don't. But hey, we are less than a third of the way in through the book. And okay, things are maybe finally starting to get good, spicy. How many chapters is it? I think it's like 46 chapters, right? I said in the last chapter. And I completely forgot. There you go. That's a 2-page chapter. Is that it? It's 40 something. Chapter, it's 41. 41 chapters. Math right now. Hold on. No. 30 por 12. 36. 36. We're not halfway. We're not a third of the way there. We're almost a third of the way there. All right. That's boring. Also, it's finally cold enough that I'm like, tea. But now I'm gonna get too hot drinking it. ASMR. Dang it. I feel like my whatchamacallit, microphone work was much better last time. I don't know how it's gonna go today. Yes. Sorry. I hate mouth sounds. Why am I making mouth sounds? I actually hate water dripping sounds more than anything. I don't know what it is. The like gently pouring of water. No, it makes me upset. A lot of people are going to be upset about that take, or about that. Okay, dokie. All right. So, as of last chapter, I am Team Leo. Fuck Caspin. Let's see how things go. Back to Kiss of the Basilisk by Lindsay Stroud. Please support this author. Please buy their book online, in person. Actually, I prefer you go to a small bookstore. But anyways, please get the book. All right. Chapter 12. All right, focus. Tem went straight to bed without washing up. Ooh, because she didn't want to take the smell of Leo off of her. I mean, they got really close. Anyways. Hold on. Tem went straight to bed without washing up. She told herself it was because she was tired, but she knew in her heart it was because she didn't want to wash Leo's scent off. All right. This book and I might finally be having a conversation. This book and I might finally be on a similar page. His cologne lingered in her hair, on her dress, on her hands. It reminded her of the way his body had felt when it was pressed against hers, how he'd hiked up her dress and touched her. Tem pictured those long fingers of his, imagining what else they could do. She fell asleep thinking about Leo. All right, I know. I was like, I'm not going to read this full series. It's a series. I hate that. But I don't know. I would read it if it was a Leo Tem, potentially. We gotta see. We'll see. I'm very curious. All right. Damn it. I think I'm enjoying this. Okay. She woke up thinking about Caspin. Ew, no, never mind. It ruined it. Ugh. It was her first day without the claw, and oh, right, because she had the claw destroyed. Okay. Back to the beginning. Tem went straight to bed without washing up. She told herself it was because she was tired, but she knew in her heart that it was because she didn't want to wash Leo's scent off. His cologne lingered in her hair, on her dress, on her hands. It reminded her of the way his body had felt when it was pressed against her, how he'd hiked up her dress and touched her. Tem pictured those long fingers of his, imagining what else they could do. She fell asleep thinking about Leo. She woke up thinking about Caspin. It was her first day without the claw, and Tem felt its absence the moment she opened her eyes. She touched her clitoris tentatively, missing the way it used to cradle her. I can't. Now that I think about it, imagine having like a pointy thing on your clit every day, all the time. Like, no, girl, that's a sensitive spot. No, thank you. Tem, dear, her mother knocked on her door. Are you awake? They expect us at the square. It was then that Tem remembered what day it was. Every autumn, the village celebrated the anniversary of their victory in the war with a week-long festival honoring the royals. There needs to be better world building. Like, there was a war between the basilisks and the humans, and like, it's very weak world building. It was a time of reverence and gratitude, culminating in an extravagant celebration in the town square. Also, it's fucked up that like they're celebrating the win against the basilisks, and yet they're still using the basilisks. Like, what the fuck? Tem and her mother always provided rooster feathers to symbolize the defeat of the basilisks. This year, the festival was even more important. It was rumored that a special ceremony would occur. The passing of the crown was a long-standing tradition in the royal family. Whenever a prince was about to take a wife, the king would pass him his crown. It wasn't an official transfer of power that would occur at the wedding. Rather, it was a way for the current king to acknowledge the future king's potential. The gesture represented a father's faith in his son's ability to rule. It was an extremely important event and a way for Maximus to give Leo his blessings. They also like keep using his nickname, which has nothing to do with his actual name, which is what? Theologus, something like that. Like, it would make more sense if his name was like Leonidas or Leonard, or, you know, something that goes with Leo and not, I guess it's Theologus, because that Leo maybe, but then it would be Theo. Like, it's these little things. Some little things are great. Some little things are just stupid. Tem rolled onto her back, closing her eyes. Do not trust the king. She still had no idea where the voice had come from, but she knew it was from somewhere in the castle, and Tem vowed that the next time she was there, she would find it. I have so many other things that I have to do around the house, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to do this instead and suffer. Tem joined her mother in the kitchen coop to gather feathers for the festival. When they arrived at the town square, it was packed with people. Tem immediately found Gabriel and joined him in holding golden flags from the eaves of the shops surrounding the square. The day passed in a series of menial tasks. Tem alternated between thinking about Leo and thinking about Caspin. She wondered if either of them was thinking about her. Her attempts to contact Caspin had been fruitless. The wall between them remained firmly in place, and every time Tem tried to send a thought down the corridor in her mind, it was met with resistance. Eventually, she stopped trying. You're awfully quiet, Gabriel prompted. There were hanging flags outside the butcher shop. I'm thinking. About? Tem thought. Last night. Tem sighed. Last night. She told Gabriel everything that had happened at the castle, leaving out only her conversation with Caspin and disembodied voice. He asked her to describe her 60 seconds with Leo in excruciating detail, giggling with unrestrained glee at everything that occurred behind the closed doors. So, he asked when she'd finished, so what? So, who's a better kisser? The snake or the prince? Come on, Tem, you can tell me. I am not answering that. I'll bet it's the prince, Gabriel continued as if she hadn't said anything. He seems like he's got something to prove. Guys with something to prove are always better in bed. It's like they're grateful to be there or something. If you say one more word, I'm telling Henry that what you did with Peter. Gabriel's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. I would. Gabriel placed his hand over his heart in mock hurt. Oh, sex has changed you, Tem. You're not the woman I used to know. I haven't had sex yet. Gabriel waved his finger dismissively. You've had a cock in your mouth, Tem. Some would consider that sex. Henry and Peter, Tem hissed. Fine. Gabriel hung another flag. His lips pursed thoughtfully. But this discussion isn't over. Before Tem could protest again, Vera appeared. She shot a disapproving look at Gabriel before turning to Tem. Did you enjoy the frisky 60, Tem? I know I did. Oh, Vera. Shut up. Walk away. Tem sighed. She was already in a foul mood, and Vera was only making it worse. Good for you, she said stiffly. The prince enjoyed it too. Good for him. Oh, wait, no. Good for you, she said stiffly. The prince enjoyed it too. Good for him. Vera wrinkled her nose, clearly wishing for more of a reaction. He requested me first, after all. Obviously, he was eager to see me. Or eager to get it over with, Tem snapped back. Gabriel let out a snort. Vera glared at him. And when did you take your turn, Tem? Rumor has it you went last. The fact, again, they're like 21, and I'm like, this is like shit you see from like high schoolers. I don't know. Maybe I acted like this when I was 20. Maybe I still act like this sometimes. Of course, a rumor like that would spread. Vera was probably the one spreading it. I may have been last, Tem said through her teeth, but I also stayed longer than 60 seconds. Vera's face pinched. What? She snapped. Tem squared her shoulders. The prince didn't even want to touch the hourglass. I had to remind him to turn it over. Vera gaped like a fish. Her eyes popping out of her heart-shaped face. I'm done. It was the perfect retort. There was no way to disprove it since Vera had left before Tem went into the library. Even better given that it was actually true. For once in her life, Vera took the hint and disappeared without another word. Feeling petty today, are we? Gabriel said. Tem threw him a look. What? He grinned. I like it when you're petty. Please shut up. Gabriel pressed a kiss to her cheek before graciously shutting up. Hours passed. They hung the rest of the flags. Eventually, Gabriel left to work dinner service at the castle. Tem needed the alone time anyways. She spent the afternoon helping the carpenter set up the stage for the passing of the crown. Tem wasn't particularly skilled at woodwork, but she was no stranger to manual labor, and she found that losing herself in the hammering helped to soothe her anxiety. By the time she was ready to head home, night was falling. Tem took the trail through the woods, winding slowly among the trees. Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. Hey! Tem turned around. The voice belonged to Jonathan. Who's Jonathan? Who's Jonathan? He was flanked by another boy who Tem recognized from school, Christopher. She goes to school? When did she go to school? What? What school? Your name's Temperance, isn't it? Jonathan asked. Who are you? Walking right up to her. Yes, she said, but I go by Tem. Right, Tem. How do I do another character's voice? Both voices were getting at her, but they weren't friendly grins. They were predatory and unpredictable, and Tem felt a sudden urge to run. Never mind, I was going to do a Hispanic accent, but I'm not doing that. What the fuck? All right. I don't know. We heard you're with the Serpent King. Is that right? No! All right. We heard you're with the Serpent King. Is that right? Tem cursed Vera in her big mouth. Yeah, she began slowly, but So he's taught you quite a lot then, I'd assume. Tem shifted uncomfortably. It was getting dark, and the boys were blocking her path home. She wanted to leave, but she couldn't get around them. All right. Trigger warning now. I don't know what's going to happen. We can all imagine potentially what's going to happen. So if you need to step away from the video, please do. I completely understand. Not that anybody's watching these videos to begin with, but big trigger warning for potential bad sex stuff. So please take care of yourselves. Goodbye. I'll see you in the next one. All right. Whew. Wish me luck. Okay. Tem shifted uncomfortably. It was getting dark, and the boys were blocking her path home. She wanted to leave, but she couldn't get around them. I'm still learning, she mumbled. Is that right? Jonathan's grin widened, and so did Christopher's. We'd like to learn too, right, Chris? Maybe you could teach us something. He looked at Christopher, who nodded greedily, his eyes never leaving Tem's. I really need to get home, she said, her voice cracking. No, you really need to teach us something. Jonathan stepped closer, and Tem stepped back. She was utterly defenseless. She wished suddenly that she had kept one of the hammers from earlier. Please, Tem begged. I have to get home. Jonathan grabbed her dress, twisting the fabric in his hand. But we're not finished, he sneered. We haven't even started. Tem tried to yank herself away, but Christopher was suddenly behind her, pulling her arms back as Jonathan ripped the front of her dress open. No, Tem cried. Leave me alone. Ooh, this is uncomfortable. This is really uncomfortable. All right, tea time. I was having fun until this. Now I'm not having fun anymore. No. These things have oh boy. Why? Unnecessary scenes. This doesn't add anything to the plot. I don't think it will at least. We'll see. Why? Jonathan asked. I'm just helping you out. You should get used to being touched like this. He grabbed her breast, hard, and she yelped in pain. After all, this is what the prince will do. Tears filled Tem's eyes as she heard Christopher laughing in her ear. Jonathan was hurting her. His cruel hands were far different from the way Caspin and Leo touched her, and she wished desperately that she were anywhere else but here. Jonathan stepped back, untying his trousers. Why don't you show me what you've learned? He sneered, dropping them to the ground. Tem stifled a wave of disgust as she realized he was already hard, his cock standing up to reveal his balls. He was less than half the size of Caspin, and for some reason, the thought gave her strength. Tem knew what to do. She stood suddenly still, no longer struggling as Jonathan stepped closer, stroking his cock with one hand. Come on, then, he said with a grin. Show me. He was just close enough to make it work. Without a second's hesitation, Tem flung her leg up as hard as she could, crushing the hard bone of her knee into the soft tissue of Jonathan's balls. He screamed, doubling over and falling to the ground. Christopher's grip on her loosened as he gasped in surprise, and Tem took the opportunity to wrench herself from his hands. Without thinking, she leaped off the path, heading for the caves. She could think of nowhere else to go. In the other direction was only forest, and she knew she wouldn't make it all the way home before the boys caught her. Hey! She heard Jonathan yell behind her. Come back, you little slut! But Tem was strimping. Tem was sprinting hard, her breath coming in short gasps as she flung herself through the door in the wall. The second she passed through it, Jonathan's taunts ceased. Tem didn't slow down, letting her feet carry her up the slope to the base of the mountain. She barreled straight for the farthest cave, scrambling through the entrance and scraping her palms on the rocks. It was completely dark inside. The fireplace wasn't lit and the air was cold. What if he wasn't here? What if the boys followed her and now she was cornered? What if... Tem? Caspin emerged from the shadows. He was wearing a loose linen shirt and trousers, his eyebrows raised in surprise. With a snap of his fingers, the fireplace flared to life. What are you doing here? Tem started, but didn't know how to finish. Now that she was here, she realized just how foolish of a plan this was. Caspin owed her nothing. Why should he grant her refuge? Oh my god. I need a second. I hope this little scene gets addressed properly later on in the book. Something like that can be really traumatizing. Usually is very traumatizing for the people that experience it. I can only hope and pray that this gets addressed properly and not just like, oh, it's something that happened to our main character to like help her get closer to the main love interest. No, fuck that. Like, we can't use scenes and experiences like this and trivialize them. It's there. This is a very real experience that a lot of people, particularly women, go through. And it's not okay to act like it doesn't have lifelong effects on women, on people who experience it, that the trauma can linger and cause all kinds of issues later on down the line. So I hope that this gets addressed. I mean, if it's going to be a moment of character development, as in like, we're not going to see Tem experience or having to deal with issues from this, so be it. Let's see how it gets addressed. If it doesn't get addressed and it's just like it's something that happened like anything else that has happened in this, I will be very upset. Second of all, I'm really, really fucking hoping that in this chapter, or even in the next one, this doesn't turn this, like, her coming to Caspin for a moment of, oh my god, please help me, doesn't turn into a moment of sex. I absolutely hate when you have the main character who's gone through very, very traumatizing experience going to the person that they love for comfort and affection, and it turning into like the moment of them having sex for the first time. Like, It's not good. That's a very vulnerable moment for that individual. It should not, the person that cares about them, if they really truly care about them, should recognize that they're in a very vulnerable and traumatized or strange state and should not take advantage of that opportunity. Like, if anything, they should dissuade any kind of sexual contact. Obviously, like, everybody processes things differently, but that's how I feel about it. Also, again, just this fucking scene just soured it real bad for me. The fact that she's over here like, oh, I can't go to Caspin because he doesn't owe me anything throughout this, so far, this whole thing. Oh, he's the one that loves me. He's the one that understands me. He's the one that gets me more than anything, because she's acting that way. She's treating him like he's the one all end all be all, the one that I love, the one that I want to be with, blah, 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 being all, but also being petty. And, you know, he's not showing any signs of actually caring about her per se. Like, he's just, she's acting like he's more than just a crush type thing. And then for her to be like, oh, well, he's not going to take care of me, or he's not going to help me in this moment of need. Like, okay, so do you not even think that he sees you as a friend? Like, do you think that he's such of a shitty person that in a situation like this, when you're in dire need, he's just going to be like, oh, well, I don't owe you anything. This is the person that you love. This is the person that you care about. This is the person that you're like, oh, he's the one all end all be all, the one that I want to be with, the one that I want to marry, the one that I miss and think about all the time. But in a moment where, honestly, a stranger should step up to try and help you, you're like, oh, maybe he's not going to help me. That shows, like, what kind of person are you falling for? Like, what are your standards for a love interest? Like, if anything, the conversation should be like, oh, it doesn't matter that we haven't talked. It doesn't matter that we have had this falling out, whatever. I know that I can always count on him. That should be the conversation. Anyways, let's continue with this after that interlude. That's not fun. Not fun. That was, yeah. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this gets fucking handled. Oof. I had a think a chapter long moment of, oh, maybe I am going to enjoy this book. Maybe I am seeing some potential, like actual potential, and that shot it. All right. Caspin emerged from the shadows. He was wearing a loose linen shirt and trousers, his eyebrows raised in surprise. With a snap of his fingers, the fireplace flared to life. What are you doing here? Tem started, but didn't know how to finish. Now that she was here, she realized just how foolish of a plan this was. Caspin owed her nothing. Why should he grant her refuge? She had shown up to his home completely unannounced, while they were on a less than friendly terms. But what if it made him angry? Caspin stepped closer. You should not be here, he said, confirming her worst fears. Tem nodded desperately. I know, I'm sorry, it's just, there were these boys, and they... But she stopped again, too ashamed to go on. Instead, she took a step back, ready to leave before she made things worse. Wait, Caspin said. His gaze fell to her torn dress, which she was holding together with her hands. He frowned. What did they do? There was genuine concern in his voice. At his tone, she swallowed, trying to calm herself down. They touched me. Caspin went completely still. The way I do? Yes. Well, no, not really. Tem could feel herself blushing, but she couldn't seem to stop the words. They were rough. I didn't like it. Caspin's eyes flicked back to her ripped dress. He stepped even closer. What are their names? Tem clasped clamped her lips. Something about the way he asked made her certain she didn't want to answer. Tim. His voice was low, controlled growl. Answer me. Jonathan and Christopher. They're a year older than me. Jonathan. Tem dropped her voice in shame. He was the one who touched me. Christopher only helped him. Caspin was standing with his fists clenched at his sides. When he didn't say anything, Tem mumbled. I shouldn't have disturbed you. I should go. No. Caspin shook his head. You will stay. Tentative relief shot through her. Take that off. Caspin nodded at her dress, which she was still holding together tightly. Tem hesitated. She didn't want to be naked right now, especially after what had just happened. She didn't come here for one of their lessons. She had come here for comfort. Perhaps she had been foolish to expect the Basilisk to prove it. Perhaps he expected payment for his protection. Before Tem could decide how to respond, Caspin pulled off his shirt. He held it out to her, and she took it cautiously. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. He continued to watch as she let her dress drop to the ground. Before she could put on his shirt, Caspin stepped forward. You are hurt, he said. Tem followed his gaze to her breasts, where Jonathan greedy fingers had left several grape-sized bruises. I'm fine. She shook her head. Caspin reached for her, and she jerked away sharply, pulling the shirt up to block him. Caspin dropped his hands, his eyebrows knitting together. I only mean to heal you, Tem. Nothing more. Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck. This is... had expected that this was not going to be treated well. Yeah, that's not... Caspin dropped his hands, his eyebrows knitting together. I only mean to heal you, Tem. Nothing more. Oh, Tem said. Sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, he paused. I will do it later, if you prefer. If you prefer, don't touch her right now. You should have grabbed a blanket. You should have grabbed something immediately, draped it over her. Wait until she's through the shock. Wait until she can handle this herself. She can go to her mother's. She can go to somebody else that she trusts. Obviously, she doesn't trust you yet. Despite her feelings, despite everything. So this is when we take her to someone who she trusts very much, someone who she feels very comfortable with. This is not a good way of handling things. I'm not saying it's the worst way to handle things, but it's not a good way to handle things. His voice was soft. Tem wasn't used to that tone from him. Their relationship had only recently become a reciprocal one, and she didn't know what to make of the way he was treating her tonight. But she knew one thing. Caspin would never touch her the way Jonathan had. You can do it now, Tem whispered. She lowered the shirt slowly. Also, the fact that he has to heal her by touching the areas. No, I'm sure. Sure, there's another way to be healed that does not involve her exposing herself again. Caspin's eyes lingered on hers before returning to her chest. He stepped closer, cupping her gently, his hand warm against her breast. I hate it. 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 I don't know if I'm going to publish this video. I don't know. This one might go in the, I don't know. The fire dimmed as coolness spread from his skin to hers. When he was done, Caspin brushed his thumbs over her nipples, caressing them tenderly as if his touch could do Jonathan's. Tem closed her eyes, savoring the way it felt. You should only know pleasure, Caspin murmured, tracing the curve of her breast before filling his palms with them. Never pain. Tell that to Jonathan, Tem said without thinking. It was the first thing that popped into her mind, and she immediately regretted it. Caspin's eyes narrowed. He looked her in the eyes. It was all the anger in the world. I intend to. Tem had never heard such fury in his voice before. I don't want anyone to get hurt, she whispered. Caspin smiled coldly, dropping his hands. You cannot always get what we want, Tem. He turned away. She was left there shivering. She pulled his shirt on quickly. It smelled of smoke. When she was covered, Caspin beckoned to her. Come. Where are we going? Tem asked. To my chambers. Oh, Tem said. She always figured Caspin spent his nights curled up in the cave, nestled along the stones while wearing his true form. Follow me. Caspin notices his passion way too near the right. The temperature rose significantly as they left the limelight of the night. Caspin's shoulders were broad in the dark, and Tem stayed close behind him as they went through a stone tunnel, passing doorway after doorway. Tem realized suddenly. Hold on. We're on page 141. The chapter ends in 147. Let me skim a bit. I don't know how comfortable I am with reading this shit right now. Hold on. I'm gonna pause. All right, I'm back. So, I'm not gonna call this cheating because it's for mental health purposes. I did skim to the end of the chapter and into the next two chapters. Till the end of the chapter seems like it's mostly like character development, relationship development. So I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, I predicted this. The next two chapters is them getting it on. Because of course. The main character's tragedy is the catalyst for them to like finally have sex. And it's gonna be all about Caspin. Fuck Tem. Fuck what Tem wants, I guess, or needs. So I'm going to read to the end of the chapter. And then I'm going to have a conversation with people that I care about and that I feel safe with to see what they think. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm doing this for fun. Like, I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this as a creative outlet. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for friends. I'm doing this for, people who are entertained and want to watch this. Not that many people are anyways. So it's like, is my mental health going to be compromised by doing this? That's something that I need to take into account because we all need to take care of ourselves. Also, is this something that I want to promote, by reading it and by people seeing it, even if it's just a handful of people? What is this going to do to their mental health? Is this a book that I think should have a voice? How do I feel about all of it type thing? So I don't know. There's also always the voice of like, I started something and so I want to finish it because I started it, which is also valid. I cheated and kind of skimmed the very, very last page. And so there is something about it that I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting and something that I would like to talk about, explore in the book. But I don't know. I don't know if the payoff is worth what we're going through in the journey. Because I honestly feel like this is not going to be addressed. Right. The temperature rose slightly as they left the dim light of the cave. Caspin's shoulders were broad in the dark, and Tem stayed close behind him as they wound through a stone tunnel, passing doorway after doorway. Tem realized suddenly why Caspin had told her to keep her eyes down. It was a basilisk. If a basilisk was wearing his true form, merged and looked her in the eyes, she would die. There was no light in the tunnel, and Tem found herself tripping over the rough stone floor. At one point, she lost her balance, and Caspin's hand darted around her waist, preventing her from falling. Oh, by the way, this book does not have a triggers warnings page, and I do not like that. I think now any book that has, I think books should have trigger warnings, even if it's a short list. I do think that's important because you don't know what people have experienced and what they're getting into. So there was no light in the tunnel, and Tem found herself tripping over the rough stone floor, and at one point she lost her balance, and Caspin's hand darted around her waist, preventing her from falling. Steady, Tem. I don't know where my brain's going now. Steady, Tem, he said quietly. He kept his arm around her until they reached a door identical to the others. Caspin pushed it open. After you, he said. Tem entered slowly, her eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. With a snap of his fingers, Caspin lit a torch, and suddenly she could see the room they had entered. It was massive. There was an enormous bed against the far wall, covered in deep maroon sheets and silk pillows. The mattress was set directly into the stone, with a small set of steps leading up to it. A full-length gilded mirror was propped in the corner, and Tem stared at her reflection as Caspin snapped his fingers once more, filling a fireplace with flickering light. It was warm here, just like the tunnel. The stone floor was smoothed and adorned with rich rugs. Is it what you expected? Caspin asked, his eyes on her. I'm not sure, Tem answered honestly. She hadn't expected anything, really. It's more human than I thought. That is because when I dwell here, I wear my human form. Where do you dwell when you wear your true form? The corner of his mouth twitched. Elsewhere. It was clear she wouldn't get a more specific answer from him. She wasn't sure she even wanted one. It was a deeply intimate thing to show someone where you slept. Tem was already grateful to be here, and she didn't want to give him any reason to kick her out. Thank you for having me, she said quietly. I know it's an imposition. Caspin crossed his arms, the muscles of his bare shoulders rotating under his skin. You are not an imposition. It was all he said, yet somehow it put her at ease. Caspin was looking at her calmly, and she knew he wouldn't lie about something like that. She wasn't even sure he could lie. Legend said that basilisks burst into flame if they spoke anything other than the truth. What's on your mind, Tem? What do you think is on her mind, you dumbass? She blinked, startled at the question. It was significant that he had asked. They both knew he could easily explore her thoughts himself, but he seemed to be treading carefully in light of what had just happened. I was wondering if the stories were true. Which stories? The ones about basilisks. That depends, Caspin said, tilting his head. There are many stories about us. Tem nodded, trying to muster the courage to ask what was on her mind. Do you really burst into flames when you tell a lie? To her surprise, Caspin threw his head back in laughter. Tem had never seen him laugh like that before, and she couldn't believe she had caused it. What's so funny? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. Caspin smiled. Your question, he replied. It is not what I expected. And to answer it, no, I would not burst into flames. But lying is uncomfortable. Uncomfortable? Yes. It requires effort, and our bodies reject it. Tem nodded. So there were some truth to the legends after all. Caspin's mouth tilted in an amused smile. Is there anything else you would wish to ask me? Tem considered the question. There were plenty of things she'd always wanted to ask him, but now that she had the opportunity to do so, she couldn't remember any of them. There was only one pressing matter she could think of. Why do you have a mirror? Caspin arched an eyebrow. To check if I have something in my teeth. It took Tem a good long moment to realize he was making a joke. Oh, she said, right. She had no idea how to react to his humor. Caspin was watching her with such obvious amusement, she couldn't help but blush. You are wondering how I can look in a mirror without dying, he said, before she could figure out how to recover. Well, yeah. The same way I can look at you now without killing you. My gaze is not lethal when I wear my human form. Tem frowned. But that means you can, she trailed off. She was going to say that it was true he could look in mirrors when wearing his human form. It meant he could bypass the mirrored wall that surrounded the village. What is it that I can do, Tem? He said softly. But there was no point in saying it. If the basilisks were going to invade the village, they would have done so long ago. The fact that they hadn't meant that they knew the wall was useless and chose to remain outside it anyway. Tem couldn't imagine why. So she shook her head. Never mind. Caspin watched her thoughtfully, as if he didn't quite believe her. If you think of anything else, do not hesitate. Tem never expected to get such an open invitation from him. She nodded, and he nodded too. Then he said, Would you like a drink? She blinked in surprise. What kind of drink? Anything you wish. Tem couldn't have named a single drink if she tried. The evening had already been so overwhelming. It felt as if her brain had been squeezed through a sieve. I'll have whatever you have, she said finally. He nodded. I shall return in a moment. In his absence, Tem sat tentatively at the end of the bed. She wondered whether anything like this had ever happened to the other girls. Had Vera seen her basilisk's chambers? Or was this a habit specific to Caspin? Something the Serpent King did with everyone he taught? Up until now, her interactions with him had been strictly surface level. Even when they were connected with their minds, they didn't discuss anything of true significance. Now they were spending time together in a different way, talking and getting to know each other as if they were dating. Girl, you... Tem stifled a thought. They were not dating, and the basilisk was not her boyfriend. He was a fearsome creature, one who was her mentor and her teacher, training her for a role. He could not possibly care about an ordinary girl like her, not to mention that their last conversation had consisted of Tem telling him to remove the claw so she could undress in front of Leo. Caspin was probably furious with her. We completely ignore the event that happened to her. Like, the character does not... Yes, no. The story completely ignores the fact that she went through this. And then we also, like, the emotional back and forth does not make sense. After she was like, no, I'm going to continue to love him, and I'm going to not support him, but, like, I'm going to stay with him even when he's changing into his basilisk form and he's telling me to run and that he's going to hurt me, but I don't believe that he's going to hurt me because he loves me and blah, 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 blah. But now we're going to act like he's some evil creature who's going to kill me. I hate this book. And yet, he had healed her. He had taken her into his private chambers and he had protected her. Those were not the actions of someone who didn't care. He could have sent her away when she showed up with her ribbed dress. Instead, he chose to comfort her. Surely that meant something. Tem stared at the fireplace, losing herself in the flames. She knew what she hoped would happen tonight. Why would it? No, this isn't okay. It's not okay. Like, sometime later, Caspin returned with a bottle of dark liquid. Tem thought it might be wine, and when he poured her a glass, she knew from the smell that she was right. Caspin sat next to her on the bed before pouring himself a glass too, and they drank together in silence. The wine was sweet and made Tem feel even warmer than she already was. Sitting and drinking with Caspin reminded Tem of the meals they had shared, and another question occurred to her. She remembered he had encouraged her to ask. So she said, "What do you eat when you wear your true form?" Caspin was unperturbed by the query, answering easily, "Many different things. Fish if I feel like swimming, small game if I feel like hunting. It depends on my desires." She nodded, processing the information. For all their proximity to the basilisks, nobody seemed to know anything specific about them, and Tem found it fascinating to finally learn some of the things she had always wondered about. Now that she had started, she couldn't resist asking more. "What does it feel like when you transition? Is it like putting on different clothes?" Caspin smiled, leaning back on the bed and propping himself up to look at her. "It is more like taking off clothes. My true form is the most natural version of me. It is the way I am meant to exist, so it takes no effort at all to inhibit it." So is it painful? Not in the least. He shook his head. It is ecstasy. Then why use your human form at all? Why not remain as a basilisk? Because nobody tries to kill me when I am a human. Oh, Tem said quietly, feeling immediately foolish for asking. She knew all about the war. She shouldn't have brought it up, especially when he was being so hospitable. I'm sorry. Caspian extended his hand, placing his palm on her thigh. You have nothing to be sorry for. It was the second time he'd said that tonight. His hand was heavy on her leg, and she tried to ignore how close his fingers were to everything she wanted him to touch. Tem took a huge gulp of wine. May I ask you something? Caspian said quietly. Of course, Tem nodded, surprised by the request. She couldn't imagine what the basilisk could possibly want to know about her. Also, the fact that she's now referring to him specifically as the basilisk regularly, this is a very different change, character change from the way she's been referring to him for the previous 140 pages. Now it's the basilisk this, the basilisk that. Before it was Caspian this, Caspian that. His hand tightened on her thigh. How did you get away from those boys? Oh, Tem paused, embarrassed at having to recount the story. Why do you ask? Caspian's jaw clenched. Because I need to picture you getting away, he said, his voice low. Otherwise, I only picture you getting hurt, and that I cannot bear. This is not about you, Caspian! At his words, a chill ran down Tem's spine. Once again, she was on the verge of convincing herself that he cared. Once again, she was indulged in a fantasy that would never come to fruition. But she indulged it anyways, answering his questions as steadily as she could. I hit Jonathan with my knee. To her surprise, Caspian's face split into a sudden grin. Did you really? Yes, Tem said, thrown off by his reaction. It was quite effective, actually. I do not doubt it, Caspian replied, still smiling. Tem wasn't sure what to make of his mood. Is that amusing to you? At her tone, Caspian's expression sobered somewhat. Not inherently. I just know how much a knee can hurt. He tapped his finger gently on her kneecap. Tem couldn't help but smile. He'd probably been kneed many times during his centuries of training girls for the prince. She was happy she hadn't contributed to that statistic. They drank in silence again. Tem remembered something Caspian had said, and she knew she had to ask. What are you going to do to them? Caspian's eyes flickered to hers. They both knew who she was referring to. There's no need for you to know, he said quietly. I want to know. Caspian sighed, finally withdrawing his hand from her leg. He set his wine on the floor before reclining on his back. His gaze pointed out to the ceiling. When he spoke, his voice was a whisper. I am going to punish them. But how? He still didn't look at her. Tem set her glass on the floor and reclined too, positioning her body close enough to feel his heat. Tell me, she murmured. Please. Caspian sighed again. He closed his eyes as if to block out her request. Tem, he said quietly, some things do not concern you. Tem had nothing to say to that. If he didn't want to tell her, she couldn't force him to do so. Still, she worried what powers he might possess. What could a basilisk do to ordinary boys like Jonathan and Christopher? Caspian could infiltrate minds. He had access to magic she could only imagine. There was no limit to the damage he could cause. It was nothing serious, she said quietly. They were just playing around. Ooh, I hate this narrative. Caspian's temple tensed. You are not to be played with. A memory came back to Tem with a striking force. The question she had asked Caspian the first time he touched her. Am I to be played with? His answer had been different then. They're just boys, she whispered. Boys who hurt you. They will answer for that. Now let it be. Tem pursed his lips. It was clear there was no arguing with him. and she wasn't sure she wanted to anyway. It was true the boys had hurt her, and part of her did want them to answer for it. But she worried Caspin would take it too far, that he would cause irreparable harm. Tem didn't want blood on her hands. But clearly it was out of her control. It shouldn't be. It should not be out of it. Tem laid her head on the mattress, studying the sharp angle of Caspin's face. He turned to look at her, his expression softening. I only wish to protect you, he said quietly. This isn't protection. Then what is it? Retaliation. Would you have me do nothing? I would have you be merciful, Caspin snorted. Mercy is for fools. I owe nobody my mercy. Not even me? A pause. They studied each other in the flickering firelight. I owe you many things, Tem, but mercy is not one of them. Many things. What did he owe her? Her heart slammed in her chest as he raised his fingers to her face, brushing gently along her cheek. Am I not allowed to protect you? He murmured. You are, she murmured back. I just didn't realize you wanted to. Caspin held her gaze. Protecting you is only the beginning of what I want to do. Yeah, I'm not happy with this book anymore. I mean, I haven't enjoyed this book, honestly. Like, it's been a shitty, fun read, like a crappy, like watching a really bad horror movie. You sit there and you know, talk shit about it the entire time that you're watching it and laugh at the really bad effects or really laugh at the really bad acting. So it's an enjoyable experience to make fun of it. That kind of just ended. I was having fun making fun of the book and tearing it a asshole, basically. Because the characters are shit, the world building is shit, the plot is shit, the writing is shit. There's a lot of shit. And I didn't expect this. This caught me off guard, honestly. And I don't like it when serious topics are played with. I don't like it when serious topics are trivialized and used as it should not be used in a shitty book. Like, this is something that a lot of people go through. Again, particularly women. And I hate it when it's a trope to help build the main couple. Like, that's not okay. Because that also happens in real life, and it never turns out well. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I did not expect to have this happen on my day off of reading this thing, and like, particularly after enjoying the last chapter so much, like, it was so fun. That was a good sexy scene, and this is not. And particularly knowing what's about to come. Literally 2 chapters. Like, I saw that it continued for 2 chapters, which I'm sure there's some people who are like, oh my god, 2 chapters of spice. Yes, I love it. Sure, I love me 2 chapters of spice. Give me, an all-nighter. But not after a scene like this, where it continues to loom and where it's being handled in a way to, like, again, it's a catalyst for her and Caspin to get together. It's supposed to show her that, Caspin loves her and wants to protect her, but it becomes about Caspin, not about her. And this book has not been about her. This book has been, obviously, it's a self-insert fantasy, which is why there's barely any descriptions about Tem. Like, she doesn't really have cohesive characterization, like who she is as a person. It's so that anybody can latch onto any part of dialogue or any piece of her and put themselves into it. It's a fantasy spot, which I understand. That's a lot of things right now. A lot of us are wanting to escape into what we read, the media that we consume. When I was much younger, I did like that self-insert fantasy stuff. As I've gotten older and processed a lot of stuff and gotten more comfortable with my own body and my own self, I would rather read stories where I see other characters that I want to emulate, not necessarily like be in the positions that they're in, but like see characters that grow and blossom and know that I can do it too, type of thing. I don't know. It's complicated. These things hit different for everybody. Sorry. And like I said, everybody processes differently. Everybody deals with grief and trauma differently. I don't know. I don't want this to be a conversation topic, but like, if you want to comment down below and tell me what you think about a scene like this, if you feel comfortable, please do. Please tell me your thoughts. I'm definitely going to, like I said, talk to certain people about this, see what their thoughts are. I know they'll tell me like, hey, if you don't want to do this, don't do this. Duh, that makes sense. And I'll spend time thinking about it. I think I want to know what their thoughts on this scene are. Honestly, I do. I want to know what most people's thoughts on these scenes are. I'm sure there's some people who are like, I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't bother me. It bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot, and it bothers me that it doesn't bother more people. This is not something that should be taken lightly. This is not something that should just, again, be used as a means to get the mean couple to get together. No, come on. Like, this is something that's horrific that happens to people in real life, and that has lifelong and long-lasting consequences to it that can be debilitating. So, goddamn this chapter for ruining our fun, huh? Yep. 10 out of 10 would not recommend chapter 12. Chapter 11. We should have just stopped at chapter 11. Maybe I'll just skip all the chapters that have got to do with Caspin and just read Leo Tem goodness. I am cemented in Team Leo now. I am hardcore Team Leo. Team Leo Theologus. All right, guys. Maybe I'll see you. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. I'll try and leave an update. Hope everybody has a good, wonderful rest of your week. And see you next time. Ciao. Ciao, 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 ciao.